Welcome back to Mind Peace Stories. Before we begin, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Your support truly motivates me to create more meaningful content. Thank you so much for your support.
In the modern economy, we see an unsettling paradox. The highest rates of unemployment, the resumes piling up the highest, often belong to those holding master's and doctorate degrees. Meanwhile, people with a high school diploma rarely stay out of work for long. They are willing to wash dishes, to sweep floors, and start at the bottom. But for those who have spent a decade chasing academic prestige, these jobs are viewed as beneath them. They simply cannot bring themselves to bend down. The educational machine is mass-producing millions of elite degrees every year. Yet across the globe, corporate enterprises are starving for actual functional talent. We are witnessing the consequences of the grade trap. It is a system of ideological programming that convinces young people their worth is tied entirely to their transcripts, ensuring that those who win in the classroom fail the moment they enter the real world. Academic accolades, when stripped of practical humility, build a towering ego, and that fragile illusion shatters upon its very first contact with reality. This systemic failure begins in childhood. Parents often say they want their children to be good people, but their daily actions focus entirely on dragging a 98-point test score up to a perfect 100. This relentless pressure breeds a deep psychological sickness, the fear of gain and loss. A student will weep for hours over a 2-point deduction because they are conditioned to believe those 2 points represent their entire identity. A mind trapped in a constant state of anxiety over grades cannot develop emotional maturity. They live in perpetual turmoil, making a life of inner peace impossible. When these top-scoring students finally emerge from years of isolated studying, they lack basic interpersonal skills. Some literally tremble at the thought of entering a workplace, terrified of interacting with other human beings. A mind trained exclusively to outscore its peers cannot function in a society that requires cooperation, tolerance, and shared burdens. Parents push their children straight up the academic ladder, assuming good grades guarantee a good life. But businesses do not hire a GPA, they hire character. They look for honesty, responsibility, humility, and patience. When a child is told, "Just study, we will handle everything else," they are actively starved of these traits. They are stripped of any organic sense of duty to their family. We see this in modern parenting tactics, like paying a child a few dollars to wash the dishes or fold the laundry. What should be an intrinsic family duty becomes a pure financial transaction. The flaw in this system appears the moment the child is tired or no longer wants the money. They simply refuse to help. Their sense of responsibility is dead, replaced entirely by temporary motivation. Without a moral compass, knowledge becomes a tool for deflection. We see this even in children who, when corrected, will quote classical texts to argue that their parents lack the authority to criticize them, turning wisdom into a defensive shield to avoid self-reflection. Intellect without a moral foundation breeds dangerous arrogance. It creates individuals who view themselves as superior to their peers, destroying personal relationships and any capacity for self-reliance. These personal character flaws do not vanish when a student enters the workforce. They scale up, and the absence of virtue routinely destroys massive global institutions. In 1995, Barings Bank collapsed. A legacy spanning over 200 years vanished almost instantly due to the unethical actions of a single employee. In 2001, the Enron Corporation fell. A $100 billion titan collapsed from the inside because top executives chose to abuse company funds. For decades, the corporate strategy was to treat the symptoms, firing the bad actors and writing new compliance rules. But the rot kept spreading. Enterprises are slowly realizing that the internal moral virtue of their workforce is the only reliable guarantee of survival. Market dominance and financial capital are irrelevant. If the human foundation of an enterprise is morally bankrupt, it will eventually collapse under its own weight. The antidote to this crisis requires a complete shift in our priorities. We have to base education on filial piety and the fundamental teaching of doing good, rather than chasing test scores. When a child is grounded in empathy and family respect, they naturally begin thinking of others. In the workplace, this translates into a life of organic contribution, collaboration, and social grace. This moral root must be planted early. If we wait until adulthood, toxic habits like arrogance and selfishness begin to calcify. Once these patterns are set, redirecting a person's character becomes a significantly harder task. Long-term societal impact and personal stability are anchored in these unseen roots of character. Academic accolades may provide the branches, but without these roots, the tree cannot sustain its own weight. Conquering an exam is utterly meaningless if you sacrifice your decency, your humility, and your humanity to achieve it. Have you ever worked with someone who had all the degrees in the world, but failed the basic test of being human? Share your story in the comments below and make sure to subscribe. True success is never printed on a paper diploma. It is determined by mastering the hardest, most invisible curriculum of all, the daily practice of being a decent human being.